Kenley Jansen is officially a member of the Boston Red Sox. We have no further clarity on what the future holds for Rafael Devers, and the Interest Kings, of course, have their eye on Dansby Swanson.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I am your host, NESN's Lauren Willand. I miss you guys the last few days. I have been under the weather. I'm finally on the mend from this awful cold sinus infection that I've had for a few days now, but finally feeling better. But the Red Sox did not help try to make that any better by any means. Today, we're going to talk about Kenley Jansen's press conference because it should have been a time where fans were excited. Maybe the media was excited as well, just to welcome him into Boston, and it was a little bit awkward. We'll talk about Rafael Devers and what the future holds for him, even though there's not a whole lot of clarity there. And of course, the Red Sox reportedly have their eyes on Dansby Swanson. I mean, honestly, are we even surprised? Because if they're interested in everyone, right? They are the interest king. They love to be interested in everyone that is on the free agent market, and just they love not making a good deal. So Jansen was officially welcomed to Boston. He had his introductory press conference, and there really just was a big elephant in the room and just a lot of awkwardness, almost a lot of tension. You could probably cut the tension with a knife, but before we get into kind of what made it so tense, we'll talk about some of the quotes that Jansen said that should give Red Sox fans at least a little bit of optimism about him truly wanting to be here. He did say that Fenway Park is one of his favorite places to pitch. He said, I only pitched here 2 times, but when you come to Fenway, it's the history behind it. You feel like a kid again. That's what I felt when I was in different uniforms playing here. It's a beautiful place to pitch. The atmosphere, you see how intense the fans are, how they get it, how much they root for their team. It's exciting. And yeah, I mean, I went to Fenway once last year in September when the Red Sox were very, very much out of it. And the crowd was still very much alive. It was a game that they won. But even when the Red Sox had nothing to play for, the fans were still very loud and still very engaging, but throughout the entire game. So yes, there is also a ton of history with Fenway Park. I mean, it's America's most beloved ballpark, right? There's a ton of history behind it. It's a lot of original seats and architecture in that ballpark. So yeah, of course. And you never know what kind of atmosphere you're getting with Fenway when you come in as an opponent. It could be very hostile. You could get a lot of respect from the fans, or it could just be that the fans are incredibly loud the entire game on their feet and just hoping for a Red Sox win. So that was one of my favorite quotes from the entire press conference, is that he does seem genuinely excited to be here. And I think that is a good sign. But you know, he is a closer, and he's a very good closer. He's proven that over the course of his career. I just hope the Red Sox give him the opportunity to continue to be a good closer, because you have to get to that 9th inning. You have to be able to get to your closer. And the Red Sox did struggle with that last year, but maybe some of those struggles would have gone away had they just had a reliable, steady closer. Jansen also said that when he got the call from the agent, knowing that he was going to Boston, he knows that it was one of the most historic organizations in baseball. It's just immediately the weight that the name the Red Sox carries. It's just, he gets you excited. It gets your adrenaline going. You know, this is a historic organization, and it's all about winning here. Technically not a lie. I mean, the Red Sox do have a history of winning. They've won 4 World Series since 2004. We have seen them put together winning teams. This has been a desirable place to pitch for a while, but obviously coming off a very ugly 2022 season and a not so great off season right now, it does make you wonder, is this team really all about winning? But it's still stuff you want to hear from him. And I do think, like I said, he genuinely wants to be here. I think he genuinely wants to put on the Red Sox uniform. He'll be able to play with Kike Hernandez again. He'll give that bullpen a closer that they've needed since Craig Kimbrell left this team. So I am very excited to see what he can bring to this team. And I'm very excited that he seems very excited to be here. He also said that the Red Sox were one of the first teams to reach out to him during the GM meetings, and the side stayed in touch throughout the last month. And he spoke to Kike Hernandez that he was big on the recruitment process and really wanted him to come to the team. And is that comfort when playing with someone for a while, knowing that what they can bring to your team and seeing them in action. Of course, you're going to want someone who has success to come to your team that hasn't had success and that just so happens to need a closer. And this is just like, I love when we find out like what the players were doing when they find out that they're going to be signed. And Jansen said he was watching Rocky 2, which is a holiday tradition in his household, when he agreed to the terms of the deal. So I always love that. And as the press conference was wrapping up, his 4-year-old, Jansen's 4-year-old, was so cute. He was like, I have a question. And he was handed the microphone. And it was silent for a little bit, and they just says, go Boston. It is the cutest thing, and I think it kind of broke that tension because there was a lot of tension there, and a lot of that tension was because Sam Kennedy and Chaim Bloom also were present, and the elephant in the room was Xander Bogaerts. We've seen so many reports come out in the last. Xander Bogaerts has been introduced with the Padres, so we know that it is official. There is no coming back now. Xander Bogaerts is in San Diego officially. And this is really the time that they can address it in front of the media. No, not in an airport with one reporter. You have to face every single reporter. Shout out to Julian McWilliams, who joined us earlier this week to break down that conversation. Very, very good episode. But when you're faced with more than just Julian McWilliams, you're going to have to answer these questions. And this is what kind of made the press conference awkward. So Chaim Bloom and Sam Kennedy obviously were asked about it. And Bloom said that they fully expected the blowback of the fans. They fully expected the fans to be hurt. He said that what the fans are feeling and the blowback has not been a surprise. And he said he would have been surprised had that not been the case. So self-awareness, okay, yay, I guess. But they would never be in this situation had they just done their job a year ago and signed Xander Bogaerts to the extension, which is just kind of becoming clearer. That seemed to never have been the plan. And I do know that some fans were very cautious about this Trevor Story signing because they were like, this clearly is the backup plan because Xander Bogaerts is leaving. And now it just seems to be all coming full circle. But Chaim Bloom did stress that there are different ways to build a ball club. We obviously know that because we have seen him with the Tampa Bay Rays, how he's built that ball club. And that's what he's trying to do with the Red Sox. And it's just really not sitting well with the fans. And now that Bogaerts is gone, the team's kind of turned its attention to other weaknesses. Shortstop still is a very glaring weakness because like we've mentioned, even if you do put Story at shortstop and then you put Kike Hernandez at second, what is your outfield? Because now you just made your outfield worse. So there are a lot of weaknesses here. The bullpen was one of them. They gave up the most earned runs in the American League last season. And Alex Cora struggled desperately to find a reliable closer. Matt Barnes, no. Tanner Houck, no. Garrett Whitlock, I would have liked to see that, but no. So getting that, like addressing that area of weakness certainly is good, but there's still this huge glaring issue with the Red Sox. And it's not paying your homegrown talent, not paying your players that want to be here, and not building a better team that for 2023 than in 2022. And Sam Kennedy, I know what he said definitely burned a fire under Red Sox fans because he said that he would put our organization and our track record up against anybody else in Major League Baseball, period. We're going to continue to field a team, a complete roster that's going to be competitive in the American League East. That's our job. We have to do that. And I know our fans will support us if we do that. The key word here, Mr. Kennedy, is if, because you haven't done that yet. There was a competitive team in 2021. That team was a lot of fun, did the improbable, got to the ALCS, was 2 games away from the World Series. And then 2022, you just put out the stinker of a lineup. And yes, there were injuries. Yes, there was issues getting this offense going. You can insert excuse here, but there was no excuse to not make bigger moves at the trade deadline, to not sign Xander Bogaerts at any point during the season or in the offseason last year as well. So for him to come out and say that they're going to field this competitive team, no one is going to believe that because of the moves that have been made or the lack thereof. And Sam Kennedy is just out there saying, yeah, we're going to be competitive. Don't worry. Our fans are going to support us if we do that. Well, yeah, of course they're going to support you if you do put a competitive team on the field. That's all they want. They didn't get that last year. Of course they want it in 2023. They've been promised that for 2023. And yes, they have had 5 fifth-place finishes in the last 11 years, but you do have the 2 World Series in that span, and then 4 since 2004, which is more than any other team in baseball. And yes, it's only been since 2018, since the last World Series. I think fans just want competitive baseball. Yes, the World Series ultimately is the end goal, but they just want competitive baseball. They want their homegrown talent. They want players they've watched for the last 9-10 years to be here for the rest of their careers. I don't think Red Sox fans really ask for much. And what they are asking for now is an extension for Rafael Devers, understandably so, and they feel this anxiety about it not getting done because of everything that's happened with Bogaerts, rightfully so. We'll talk about what Sam Kennedy said, as well as maybe the Red Sox have their eyes on Dansby Swanson. Of course they do. They're the interest kings. We'll get into that in the second segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, just as soon as I tell you about why it is important to drive sober, because if you're hanging out with some friends and you're putting back a few drinks, a few all of a sudden becomes few too many, the evening comes to an end, people start to head out, and you think of calling a ride, but nah, you live nearby, you're not that far, you can make it home, it's okay, it's no big deal. What are the odds that you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen, right? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you totaled your car, or you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still does not stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to help save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again, just play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. There's Ubers, there's Lyfts, there's taxis, there's moms, dads, friends. You can call anyone for a ride. It only takes one choice to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen today. And for your second listen, make sure you check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights that only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on YouTube, Odyssey app, or wherever you get your podcasts. So while Kenley Jansen should have been the focal point of his press conference this week, of course, the Xander Bogaerts signing with the Padres, the looming extension or no extension for Rafael Devers is just too much of a big topic to ignore. So even though the Red Sox do have success in the past 11 years, like I said in the first segment, 5 fifth-place finishes, yes, but 2 World Series during that span, 4 since 2004, it's not enough because it's the lack of competitive baseball. But last year was just so awful to watch at times when you're just watching this team struggle game after game after game. And 2 players who were solid for you were Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts. You no longer have Xander Bogaerts. So now the attention is on Rafael Devers. He is locked up through the 2023 season. Then he will become a free agent. So, of course, a lot of fans now were like, well, is what's going to happen to Bogaerts happen to Devers? And of course, Sam Kennedy was asked about that. And he said, I try not to look back. You can really harm yourself and harm your plan and harm your decision making if you get too caught up in regrets in the past or any type of fear of the future. I don't engage in any of the 2 activities. I don't focus on regrets of the past, and I don't worry about the things I can't control in the future. What we're trying to do in the moment is make the right decisions for the Boston Red Sox. That's the job. It comes with painful, difficult decisions along the way. Okay, so you're deflecting. Great. That's exactly what fans want to hear, right? And for him to say that he's not worried about the things that he can't control in the future, okay, you can control what happens to Rafael Devers. This is the thing. Why would you say, oh, I can't control what happens in the future? You can. You absolutely can. You have control over who you want to sign, who you want to build your team around. So a 100% deflection. And then he says, we'll keep doing what I said we're going to do, which is making the right decisions. Okay, so in order to keep making the right decisions, you have to start making the right decisions. And yes, getting a closer and building up your bullpen and making your bullpen better was a right decision. Not signing Xander Bogaerts to an 11-year deal probably was the right decision. But you could have gotten a deal done because he should have never reached free agency because you should not have disrespected him with a lowball offer at the beginning of spring training or during spring training. Now it's looking like you're going to make the same decision with Rafael Devers. You're not making the right decisions. You're making these silly decisions that seem to make no sense in the moment for the Red Sox. You know, you talk about building your team around these guys, how much they've brought to your team, how much they mean to your team, then show it. You certainly didn't show it with Xander Bogaerts. So just for him to sit there and say, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, and that's making the right decisions, I don't think that's going to sit well with any Red Sox fan because they haven't made many right decisions and they're not really addressing them. They're not really holding themselves accountable. So just a big mess. And the thing is, like, the larger reality here is that the Red Sox were not a competitive team in 2022. We know that. We know that Kike Hernandez was promised that this team would be better in 2023, and they really haven't made it better yet. Yes, there's still plenty of offseason left. We know that. Pitchers and catchers don't report for another 2 months. There's still offseason to be had. But some Red Sox fans I've talked to and some Red Sox fans I've seen on Twitter don't have this feeling that they're going to be a better team in 2023. And right now, I don't think they are. What would make them a better team in 2023 is getting a reliable shortstop. And the Red Sox, the interest kings, reportedly are interested, color me shocked, in Dansby Swanson. This is coming from Jon Heyman. So again, we're not sure how reliable it is. We do know that he's had his track record of getting things wrong. Obviously, he would be a welcome addition to the Red Sox. That way you can keep Trevor Story at second base, and you don't need to do much more shuffling between the outfield and the infield. So, of course, the Red Sox have been mentioned as a suitor for Dansby Swanson. He's really the only major shortstop left in the free agent market. You saw Carlos Correa get a mega 13-year deal with the San Francisco Giants. So he's gone. Trey Turner's gone. Xander Bogaerts is gone. Dansby Swanson is left. Now, I don't think he's going to get a 13-year deal, but it doesn't sound like we're going to know for a while what his decision is, because it's believed that his decision is not imminent, and that's according to MLB Network's John Morosi. But understandably, he does have a lot of reported teams out there hoping to sign him to a deal. And say he does sign with the Red Sox and he gets this deal, people are going to constantly compare that to what they could have got for Bogaerts, what they could have signed Bogaerts for, and any single time, no matter who is at shortstop, no matter what, it's always going to be Bogaerts would have had that. Bogaerts wouldn't have done that. And that's okay. That's how fans react. That's how fans navigate through tough losses. I'm guilty of doing it 100%. But we're going to have to wait on a decision from Swanson. But there are also reports out there that Chaim Bloom wants to be very, very aggressive in the trade market. And maybe this will be kind of his redemption tour or redemption off part of the off season. I don't know who he would want to trade. Julie McWilliams did mention Alex Verdugo as a potential trade chip. Jarren Duran is also out there. Bobby Delbeck. There are a lot of pieces that the Red Sox could trade. You'd have to package them. Again, I think Red Sox fans don't want to hear anything. They want to see actual actions. You know, we heard for so long, Xander Bogaerts is our priorities. Plan A, we want him here long term. And he never was. He never was plan A. He never was the top priority. And all fans wanted at this point is transparency. So we'll see what this trade market holds. I haven't seen anything beyond that. Chaim Bloom wants to be aggressive. Chaim Bloom also wanted to sign Xander Bogaerts. So who knows? That is the theme of the offseason with the Red Sox. Who knows? Who knows what they're doing? What are they doing? It's also a very common theme among Red Sox fans this offseason. We do have one more segment to get to in this Locked On Red Sox podcast. As always, we'll end this on the Mental Health Minute as soon as I tell you about BetOnline, because betonline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball, the World Cup. The final is very, very soon. BetOnline has it all right at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, which I'm assuming you do, you can even find those at BetOnline. They're pretty much your one-stop shop for everything, and always the fastest and the easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. So for this Mental Health Minute, I just want to remind people to listen to your body. I know I say that a lot. I really wish I did that in the last week, because I could feel myself getting run down, and I just continued to push through work. I had other obligations that I had to attend last week. And of course, I come down with a cold, and now it's a sinus infection. And my body is like, why didn't you listen to me? And I'm like, I don't know. Because I'm stubborn and I want to constantly get my work done. Maybe that's a character flaw in me, but I did take some time to actually rest and recover. Jake killed it without me. I'm very, very grateful for him and holding it down while I was sick. Still not 100%, but we're getting there, and I feel like I'm doing better than the Red Sox, and I think that's all that matters at this point. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Locked On Red Sox right here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast is where you can find us. Be sure to find us on Twitter as well at LO_Red Sox, Jake at Jake Iggy, and then me, Lauren, 3 Laws, Lauren with 4 R's. And be sure to check out all the other shows across the Locked On Network. Locked On Yankees, Locked On Astros, Locked On Giants. A lot of stuff is happening throughout MLB this offseason. And now that you've made Locked On Red Sox your first listen, head on over to Locked On Sports Today to make it your second listen of the day. From the games that matter the most to the biggest storylines in sports, you go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts that only Locked On can provide. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. That's Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, on the Odyssey app, on Spotify, Apple. Just like Locked On Red Sox, wherever you can get Locked On Red Sox is where you can get Locked On Sports Today. We will be back this week. We will keep you updated with all the news, the rumors, the trade market. We'll keep you up to date on everything that is happening this offseason. Until next time, we're going to end this how we always do. Let's go, Red Sox.